You only live twice, Mr. Bond. The secrets behind this 1967 classic have been hiding in plain sight for nearly 6 decades. Today we're cracking open the Spectre volcano. 20 weird facts plus one jaw-dropping bonus that'll change how you see Sean Connery's most ambitious 007 adventure forever. Behind-the-scenes chaos, casting disasters, lost ninjas, and one secret involving a children's author and a real autogyro. This is the Bond film you only rewatch twice. Welcome to Rewatch Club. Number 1. Roald Dahl wrote Bond. When you hear the name Roald Dahl, you probably picture chocolate factories and giant peaches, not exploding volcanoes and ninja armies. But the legendary children's author wrote the entire screenplay for You Only Live Twice. Dahl was a close friend of Ian Fleming, and the producers practically begged him to take the job. There was just one problem. Dahl read Fleming's original novel and called it Fleming's worst book, with almost no usable plot. So he was given complete freedom to invent something new. Working in roughly 6 weeks, Dahl threw out nearly the entire book and wrote the first true blockbuster Bond adventure.
And they adore the way he takes their side in his books and letters.
Complete with hollowed-out volcanoes, hijacked spacecraft, and an unmistakable cinematic rhythm. The man who created Willy Wonka also created the modern Bond formula. Number 2. The volcano set that broke records. Production designer Ken Adam built something Hollywood had never seen. A fully functional volcano lair, complete with a working monorail, helipad, and retractable roof. The set stood roughly 148 feet tall at Pinewood Studios in England and cost a staggering $1 million in 1966. That's roughly $9 to $10 million today, making it the most expensive single set ever constructed at the time. It was so massive it didn't fit inside any soundstage, so they built it outdoors on the studio's back lot. Locals reportedly drove past Pinewood just to gawk at the strange concrete crater rising from the English countryside. The set used hundreds of tons of steel and was visible from miles away. When filming wrapped, demolishing the set cost a small fortune in itself. Hollywood blockbusters would never look the same again. Number 3. Connery quit on set. By 1967, Sean Connery was the highest-paid actor in the world, and absolutely miserable. Throughout filming in Japan, the press hounded him relentlessly. Photographers hid in trees outside his hotel. One reporter even sneaked into his bathroom. By the time cameras rolled, Connery had already decided this was his final 007 film. He told the producers, the press, and anyone who'd listen that he was done.
A film has recently been released, hasn't it? Woman of Straw.
Yes, and I just came back from Hollywood the year before last doing Macbeth.
He felt typecast, exhausted, and frankly exploited. Although he'd later return for one more Eon film, Diamonds Are Forever, You Only Live Twice was originally meant to be his cinematic farewell.
Mr. Henderson's waiting for you.
You're not coming in with me?
Mr. Henderson would like to see you alone.
By the way, we already covered the first 4 Connery Bond classics in a previous video. Should we tackle his 6th and final outing next? Drop a yes in the comments, and we'll know what to do. Number 4. Blofeld's first face reveal. For 3 previous Bond films, audiences had only ever seen one thing of Spectre's mastermind Ernst Stavro Blofeld, his white-suited torso and that infamous fluffy white cat. His face stayed hidden, his voice altered, his identity a phantom. You Only Live Twice changed everything.
For the occasional one such as we have here.
Reflects largely absolute integrity of its members.
For the first time in cinema history, viewers saw Blofeld's face, and that scarred, bald, piercingly cold visage instantly became one of the most iconic villain designs ever filmed.
In a matter of hours, when America and Russia have annihilated each other, we shall see a new power dominating the world.
Donald Pleasance's interpretation set the template for every evil mastermind that followed. The reveal scene, with Blofeld emerging from shadow into Bond's view, was choreographed like a magician's trick. Audiences in 1967 reportedly gasped audibly in cinemas. 6 decades later, we still picture that face whenever someone says the words world domination. Number 5. Pleasance wasn't the first pick. Here's where things get even stranger. Donald Pleasance wasn't the first actor cast as Blofeld. The role originally went to Czech actor Jan Verich, a beloved European comedian and theater star. Verich actually arrived on set in his Blofeld costume, performed a few days of filming, and then everything fell apart. The producers reportedly felt he looked too cuddly, more like a benevolent grandfather than a world domination supervillain. Verich himself was unwell during filming and quietly departed. Donald Pleasance was rushed in as a replacement, and producers gave him just days to develop the character. Pleasance personally suggested the now iconic facial scar to make Blofeld more menacing, and he proposed it himself after testing several different looks in the mirror.
You can watch it all on TV. It's the last program you're likely to see.
The improvisation became legendary. Sometimes the second choice rewrites cinematic history. Number 6. Little Nelly's death-defying pilot. The autogyro chase sequence, known as Little Nelly, wasn't filmed with a stunt double at the controls. Wing Commander Ken Wallace, the man who actually invented and built the real-life autogyro,
Of Wing Commander Ken Wallace, Rameston Hall are 18 hand-built autogyros.
performed every single flight himself. Wallace logged dozens of takeoffs and landings during filming in Japan, dodging real helicopters with real cameramen leaning out of them. During one stunt, a helicopter rotor reportedly came within inches of slicing the cameraman in half. Wallace later said the sequence was the most terrifying thing he ever did, and he had survived a war. He was 51 years old at the time. The autogyro itself, fitted with rocket launchers, machine guns, and flamethrowers for the film, was a real working aircraft.
Incendiaries and high explosives. 2 rocket launchers, forward firing on either side.
Wallace kept flying it for decades afterward, and Little Nelly still exists today in a British museum. Number 7. A title from a haiku. The phrase, "you only live twice," doesn't actually come from Ian Fleming's imagination. It originates from a haiku by 17th century Japanese poet Matsuo Basho, one of the most celebrated poets in Japanese history. The original line reads roughly, "You only live twice, once when you're born and once when you face death." Fleming encountered this proverb during his research trips to Japan and adapted it for his novel. The film itself includes a beautifully quiet scene where Tiger Tanaka recites the proverb to Bond, giving the title genuine cultural depth. This is the only Bond film whose title is rooted in classical poetry rather than gambling, gadgets, or seduction. Fans from the 60s remember being moved by that moment, even amid all the explosions. Beneath the spectacle, "You Only Live Twice" has a strangely poetic soul. Number 8. The Toyota built for one movie. Aki drives a sleek white sports car in the film, a 1967 Toyota 2000 GT convertible.
Long enough to learn not to discuss such matters with strangers.
There's only one tiny problem. Toyota never actually made a convertible version of the 2000 GT. The car you see was custom-built specifically because Sean Connery, at 6'2", simply could not fit inside the standard hardtop. So Toyota literally cut the roofs off 2 production cars and built convertible versions just for the movie. Only 2 of these convertibles ever existed in the world. Today, they're among the rarest and most valuable Japanese collector cars in history. Toyota didn't profit much from the appearance commercially, but the prestige was priceless. The 2000 GT became an instant icon, and Japanese auto manufacturers point to this moment as the day Japanese performance cars truly entered the global stage. And stick around for the bonus fact. Connery did something with his Bond fortune absolutely no one expected. Number 9. Connery's hidden hairpiece. Here's something most casual fans never realize. Sean Connery was already balding heavily by the time he was cast as James Bond, and he wore a hairpiece in every single 007 film, including You Only Live Twice. He was just 36 during filming, but his receding hairline had been a private struggle since his 20s. The continuity team obsessively maintained his Bond toupee throughout production. There's even a now infamous story that during a humid shoot on the Japanese coast, his hairpiece reportedly slipped during a swim sequence, halting filming for nearly an hour. Crew members nicknamed it the Other Bond. Connery never publicly addressed the wig until decades later, when he embraced his bald look in films like The Hunt for Red October. But during his Bond era, the hairpiece was as essential to 007 as the Walther PPK. Number 10. Mie Hama almost got fired. When the production cast Mie Hama as the major Bond girl Kissy Suzuki, her English skills became a serious problem.
I have a car nearby.
Oh, where do you suggest we go?
I know a quiet hotel.
The producers grew frustrated and considered firing her, replacing her with another Japanese actress. But Sean Connery stepped in and defended her. He reportedly told producer Cubby Broccoli that if Hama left the production, he was leaving with her. Faced with their star's ultimatum, the producers found another solution. They simply swapped the 2 Japanese leading ladies. Akiko Wakabayashi, originally cast as Kissy, took over the more dialogue-heavy role of Aki. Mie Hama moved to Kissy, whose role had fewer English lines. It saved the production and saved Hama's career. Decades later, Hama spoke fondly of Connery, crediting him as the reason she kept her career, and possibly her dignity, through that brutal production. Number 11. Real ninjas on set. The ninja training sequences in You Only Live Twice weren't choreographed by Hollywood stunt coordinators. They were overseen by Don F. Draeger, a renowned American martial arts historian who had spent years studying authentic Japanese fighting traditions in Japan. Draeger brought genuine practitioners, real weapons, and traditional techniques to set, training the actors with authentic martial drills. The producers were stunned by the realism and by how dangerous it became. During rehearsals, performers reportedly suffered cuts and bruises from misjudged weapon handling. Draeger himself even appeared briefly on screen as a Spectre henchman, a hidden Easter egg most viewers never spot. Many film historians credit You Only Live Twice with launching the global ninja craze of the 1970s and 80s, eventually leading to franchises like American Ninja and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Bond didn't just visit Japan, he exported its mystique. Number 12. Connery was mobbed in Japan. Filming in Japan turned into a personal nightmare for Sean Connery. He'd been globally famous for years, but Bond mania in Japan was on a different level entirely. Crowds of thousands greeted him at airports. Photographers staked out his hotel rooms around the clock. According to multiple reports, one photographer was discovered hiding in Connery's bathroom, having waited there for hours, hoping for a candid shot. He was mobbed during a public bath visit, paparazzi sneaking past hotel staff. Connery later said Japan was the moment he realized fame had become a prison. He reportedly took to walking the hotel hallways late at night just to breathe without a flashbulb in his face. By production's end, his hatred of fame had hardened into something he'd carry for the rest of his career, and Bond was the reason. Number 13. Roald Dahl's Bond Girl Rule. Roald Dahl wasn't given total creative freedom. There was one strict rule. The producers told him every Bond film must include exactly 3 Bond girls, in a precise dramatic order. One girl who helps Bond and dies, one girl who's evil and dies, and one girl who survives as the romantic finale. Dahl thought the rule was absurd. He later wrote about it openly, mocking the formula in private letters and interviews. But he obeyed it perfectly. Aki, who helps Bond, dies tragically. Helga Brandt, the Spectre redhead, betrays Bond and dies in a piranha pool. Kissy Suzuki survives as the final love interest. Dahl jokingly called it the Holy Trinity of Bond. That formula, born from this exact film, became the unofficial template every Bond film followed for the next 2 decades. Quick favor before we keep going. If these stories are pulling you in, smash that like button and subscribe to RewatchClub so you don't miss a single deep dive. Drop a comment telling us your favorite Bond moment of all time. We read every single one. Now back to the most outrageous Bond marketing trick in cinema history. Number 14. James Bond is dead. The film's marketing campaign was one of the boldest gambits in 1960s cinema. With Bond shown apparently dying in the opening sequence, distributors leaned hard into the funereal mood. Posters and trailers boldly declared in some markets, James Bond is dead. Tongue-in-cheek headlines fed the rumor that Connery was leaving the role for good, which, as we now know, was actually true. Audiences arrived at theaters genuinely uncertain whether they were about to witness the death of their hero. When Bond is shown shot in his Hong Kong bedroom, then given a sea burial in the opening scenes, gasps echoed through cinemas worldwide. Of course, it's all a ruse. Bond fakes his death to go undercover among Spectre. But the audacious marketing worked spectacularly. You Only Live Twice opened to record-breaking numbers, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of 1967. Number 15. Charles Gray's strange Bond twist. Watch closely during the Tokyo scenes and you'll spot a charming, distinguished British contact named Henderson. He's played by actor Charles Gray.
Glad you got it right. I lost that in Singapore in 42.
Who appears briefly before being killed off early in the film. But Gray's Bond connection didn't end there. Just 4 years later, in Diamonds Are Forever, Connery's 6th and final Bond, the very film many of you have asked us to cover next, Charles Gray returned to the franchise as Ernst Stavro Blofeld himself.
Someone who's already missing.
How clever you are, Mr. Bond.
He's the only actor in Bond history to play both an ally and the supreme villain across 2 films. This was years before continuity rules tightened. Gray reportedly thought it was hilarious that no one in production seemed to mind. His haircut and scar-free Blofeld was a complete tonal shift from Pleasance, making this small Henderson role one of the strangest Easter eggs in 007 history. Number 16. The Piranha Pool. When Helga Brandt, the Spectre villainess, meets her grisly fate in a pool of flesh-eating fish, the production reportedly went the extra mile for authenticity. According to multiple set reports, real piranhas were imported from South America under strict aquatic regulations and kept on set in temperature-controlled tanks. The actress in the scene, Karen Dorr, performed her death sequence near the tanks, separated only by transparent panels. Stories from the set claim several crew members refused to assist with the piranha handling, citing genuine fear of being bitten. After filming, the surviving fish were donated to a British aquatic facility, where they reportedly lived for years afterward. The scene remains one of the most disturbing villain deaths in classic Bond, and one of the rare moments when the production's appetite for realism crossed clearly into the deeply unsettling. Number 17. The set inspired Star Wars. Production designer Ken Adams' volcano lair didn't just impress audiences, it directly influenced future filmmakers.
We haven't got any gadgets yet, entirely on my side, to go bigger and better pictures.
George Lucas has cited Bond's grand 1960s sets as a key visual reference for Star Wars, particularly the Death Star interior sequences. The vast scale, the grand mechanical interiors, the catwalks, the soldiers marching through cavernous chambers. These aesthetics traced straight back to Ken Adams' volcano. Steven Spielberg has also pointed to Bond's epic 60s spectacle as inspiration for the warehouse climax of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Even modern blockbuster directors like Christopher Nolan reportedly studied Adam's work. Ken Adam built more than a movie set in 1966. He built the visual blueprint for blockbuster cinema. Every massive villain lair you've ever seen on screen owes something to this volcano in the English countryside. That's not just design, that's legacy. Number 18. The Cat Bolted. The fluffy white cat lounging in Blofeld's lap became one of cinema's most enduring symbols of villainy.
Our clients are satisfied with the progress so far?
But filming with that cat was a disaster. The cat used in You Only Live Twice was reportedly terrified by the explosions, set noises, and crowded soundstage. During one famous take, the cat bolted from Donald Pleasance's lap and ran across the volcano set, vanishing for hours. Cast and crew searched the entire massive structure trying to find it. The cat was eventually located hiding somewhere in the rafters of the volcano interior, refusing to come down. Subsequent takes had to use a calmer backup animal. Pleasance reportedly joked that working with the cat was harder than playing the world's most dangerous villain. From that moment on, the white Persian became Blofeld's iconic accessory, and a quiet nightmare for every Bond producer that followed. Number 19. A last-minute script rewrite. You Only Live Twice was the first Bond film to almost entirely abandon its source novel. Roald Dahl wrote the screenplay in roughly 6 weeks, but even his version went through major rewrites once production began. Sean Connery contributed dialogue suggestions on set. Director Lewis Gilbert improvised entire sequences in Japan. The ending was reportedly being rewritten while the cast was already filming the final volcano battle. Producers were so panicked about the script that telegrams flew between London and Tokyo daily, with new pages arriving by international courier. At one point, Dahl was working from his English country home while filming was already underway in Asia. The film's plot, about hijacking spacecraft to ignite World War III, was reportedly finalized only days before the climactic scenes were shot. It's a small miracle the film coheres at all. Number 20. The Birth of Dr. Evil. Mike Myers has openly admitted that Dr. Evil, the bald, scarred, cat-stroking villain at the heart of the Austin Powers franchise,
Look what you did to Mr. Bigglesworth!
But Dr. Evil
is a direct, intentional parody of Donald Pleasance's Blofeld in You Only Live Twice, right down to the gray mouse-style suit, the icy stare, the slow finger-pointing, and the white cat. Myers said he wanted to capture the exact moment Pleasance first appeared on screen. That tonal mix where you don't laugh, but you feel like you should. Decades later, kids who'd never seen You Only Live Twice were quoting Dr. Evil's mannerisms in schoolyards across the world, unknowingly imitating Pleasance's 1967 performance. One bald villain, one fluffy cat, one menacing scar, created in panic during a Czech actor's withdrawal, became the template for cinematic villainy itself. And we still haven't reached our bonus fact. Trust me, it's the strangest of all. Number 21. Bonus fact. Connery's secret fortune. Here's the bonus fact you've been waiting for, and it's the most surprising of them all. Sean Connery walked away from You Only Live Twice with a salary that, adjusted for today, sits in the multi-million-dollar range. But what he did with that fortune is what truly stunned the industry. Connery used a massive portion of his Bond earnings to establish the Scottish International Educational Trust, a charity that funds scholarships for Scottish students from working-class and underprivileged backgrounds. He poured Bond money into the cause for years, often quietly and without publicity. He once said fame had given him more than any man deserved, and he wanted to spend it on kids who would never wear a tuxedo. The trust still operates today. James Bond was always fiction, but Sean Connery's quiet generosity was deeply, unmistakably real. That's the most unexpected legacy of all. You Only Live Twice didn't just give us volcanoes, ninjas, and the face of Blofeld. It handed cinema the blueprint every blockbuster has chased ever since. From Roald Dahl's 6-week miracle to Sean Connery's quiet generosity, this film carries more heart beneath the spectacle than fans ever realized. Now your turn. Which moment from this 1967 classic still gives you chills? Drop it below. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our deep dive on Diamonds Are Forever, Connery's 6th and final Bond. And here's our challenge. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because in this club, you don't just live twice, you rewatch forever. So tell us, which movie should we cover next here at Rewatch Club?